Dis bonjour à Neil.
Regarde, Neil.
Hello, Neil.
Hello, Natalie. How are you? Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are live. We are live from the Bone Vineyards with no other than Nathalie Boisset. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, everybody. I'm just passing by.
An unexpected visitor. Good to see you, Grégory.
Yes.
So, yes, a little bit of a crazy start. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last webinar of the week with our Meet the Winemakers. And of course, we've spared the best till last because today we have the privilege and honor of meeting the deadly duo, the terrible twins, the best double act in Boisset, Grégory the Silver Fox Patriat, and the wonderful Laure Guilloteau. Laure, Grégoire, good evening.
Good evening, how are
Good
you?
evening.
Very well, how are you?
Very good.
Good, thank you.
Okay, everybody, as usual, we'll go through the presentation. There's a question and answer box at the bottom, so please feel free to ask your questions as we go along, and we will do our best to give you some great answers. And of course, if we do run out of time, please don't hesitate to send us an email and we can answer any of your questions at that time. So traditionally, Laure, Grégory, when we start our presentations, we ask people to introduce themselves, but we thought it would be fun today, maybe if you could introduce each other. So Grégory, why don't you start and tell us everything you're allowed to tell us about Laure Guilloteau?
Yeah. So let me introduce you to Laure. She looks like young. I've met her 10 years ago. It was in 2010 for the first time. She came as a student in the winery for vintage work, and 10 years later, she's still here to support.
To support.
As much as possible. So it's a quite a long, young story.
Now, I know Laure participates very fully in the winemaking. So how do you split up the work between the two of you?
So it's a good question.
There is no real rule about that. We just go with the flow.
Okay. Laure, a few words about Grégory?
Yeah, so 10 years ago I met him. He already got his very famous white hair. So it's not me that give him this kind of color. So it's good for me. So Grégory he's at Jean-Claude Boisset since 2002, even if he looks very young too. Before he was working at Domaine Leroy. So he got the chance to get La Loubise Leroy as his mentor. And me, I'm quite lucky to have him as my mentor too. Yeah.
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 Now, we like to tell the story, Grégory, when Jean Charles decided to redefine Jean-Claude Boisset as a maison, and he transformed Boisset from a big multi-thousand case winery into this more small boutique, a very luxury house that it is today, that he went looking for a good winemaker and he couldn't find one. So he employed you. Is that true? You weren't actually a winemaker back in the day, right?
I was at the beginning vineyard manager. I used to work in the winery, but I was my formal wine education was a wine grower. So that was a kind of chance, you know. When we've met with Jean-Charles and Nathalie 18 years ago, the Boisset company was looking for somebody who had a strong experience in vineyard and viticulture. So that was a very strong project repositioning, because the brand, you know, we have divided the turnover by 8 to only keep la crème de la crème, as we say in French, and to reposition the winery as one of the flagship of Burgundy in terms of quality.
So do you think that your approach is different to some winemakers who have a more classical winemaking training?
I mean, here we attach a lot of importance to the vineyard. You know, 80% of the quality of any wine is made in the vineyard. You know, we don't want to interfere. We want to interfere as less as possible in the winemaking process. You know, we don't use any yeast. We don't use any enzyme. We don't use any tannins. We don't want to add anything to the wine. Just make some pure juice, wine juice, I would say. So when you want to be a lazy winemaker, That means you need to work twice more hard in the vineyard to reach the top quality. So that means we are not magicians. You cannot make good wines with average quality grapes. So you need to work twice more in the vineyard to have a fantastic quality, and then you will reach the top quality with wine after that.
Now, Laure, can you just tell us a little bit about how many different wines you make and the total production of the winery?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So at Jean-Claude Boisset Winery, we do around 2,000 hectoliters of wines that make not that far from 300,000 bottles per year. I know you prefer to think with cases, but I'm very bad in mathematics, so bottle would be fine, I guess. So
we'll say 25,000 cases. How's that?
Thank you very much. So we do wine from the Côte de Nuit to the Mâconnais area, and we do around 40 to 45 different wines per year. Not different appellation. Sometimes we do multiple wine in the same appellation because we love to work by climat. So by climat I mean by plot. As an example, we got the Nuit Saint-Georges. In Nuit Saint-Georges, we do 7 different wines now. So that means we like to really separate all the plots and respect the personality of each wine.
Now, we were talking to Sylvie from Domaine de la Vougerie yesterday, and of course, those are all the Domaine plots. At Jean-Claude Boisset, you're only doing mostly non-Domaine grower parcels. How does that make your work different or the same from a classic Domaine?
Well,
yeah,
I think
it's very... we try to turn our inconvenience, as we are not owners here, as an advantage. So that means we select only top vineyards in every village. We don't want, for example, we don't select any young vineyards under 20 years old, only old vines from premium quality. So we try really to turn this inconvenience as an advantage, to select the best in each village. We don't care about quantity. The idea is to make the best of each appellation in Burgundy. Even if we make only 2, 3, 4 barrels of this wine or that wine, it doesn't matter. The idea is to make the best of each appellation. So it's a big advantage to have the possibility to select only really the top vineyards.
And you have to be a good negotiator too, because you have to stay in contact with all the vine growers. And well, Grégory is traveling a lot right now in different vineyards to make sure that 2020 will be perfect.
And even if we don't own the vineyard, we control the vineyard. That's very important. For example,
I think this is very important. Both of you, anybody who's tasted the Jean-Claude Boisset wines will know what fantastic wines they are, and can stand up to many of the great domains in Burgundy, and they do, and get scored appropriately. So there's this preconceived idea sometimes that because it's domain, it's good, and because it's negotiable, it's not so good, but that is not at all the case.
Yeah, something very important nobody knows, but 90% of the estates of domains in Burgundy are négociants. 9 domains on 10 are already négociants today. So the difference is not between négociant and domain. This is completely over. I would say it's a 20th century debate. Now, today the difference is between good and bad wines. It is as simple as that.
Very well said, Gregory, very well said. Now, I know that last year being the first new vintage, you have a wonderful new toy, a great new home to be making your wines in. I'm just going to ask you to wait about a minute while our friend Lisa shows a very short video which shows some aerial photography of the new winery, and then perhaps you can walk us through the new Jean-Claude Boisset winery that was opened officially last year. Lisa, can you take it away, please? Spectacular. Is Gregory still talking to Natalie?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So we just saw these stunning images of the outside of the winery. Gregory, can you tell us a little bit of the story about how the new winery came about, and just in a few words, the key points that you would like to tell us?
So we have to stay modest. It's maybe the most spectacular winery of Burgundy. That kind of things have been made maybe in Bordeaux or in California, but when we talk about architecture for wineries in Burgundy, nothing has been made seriously before. So we are the first wine company in Burgundy to invest in architecture on something completely unbelievable. It has been designed by the actual architect of Château de Versailles, Frédéric Didier. So he made the design of this really unbelievable project. It took 4 years to make it. We started in 2014 and achieved in 2018. So it's a bioclimatic building, no air conditioning inside. So it's nice as well, but it's efficient as well. So it's like a dome with vineyards planted at the top. Really very, very spectacular in Burgundy.
And the cellars are modeled on some of the classic Burgundian historical architecture?
Yes, because this whole place was before a convent, until the French Revolution. There were 120 sisters living here, and in 1789 they have been chased, and it became a private estate after that. So this is why we have some beautiful old cellars that are really extremely good for the wine, beautiful humidity, beautiful temperature. So it's really and it's quite large, which in Burgundy there's always a lack of space in many cellars. So at Jean-Claude Boisset we're happy we have in fact too much space, which is a good problem to have.
So apart from being probably one of the most spectacular buildings architecturally, the most important thing is, of course, how efficient it is as a winery. What has this new winery brought to you that helps you make the wines better that the old winery didn't have?
So at first we wanted a gravity winery, very important. So we use, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay are very sensitive grape varieties. So the more you touch them, the more you crush them, the more you lose in terms of quality. So you have to be very, very careful with these grape varieties. So gravity is very important. So we use gravity to pull the grapes in the tank, and we use gravity to do the bottling as well. So it's a kind of 100% gravity winery. So it's really the rule number one, I would say, gravity.
But there are also some special features in the dimension and the curves of the winery that also help the wines as well?
Yeah, definitely. We wanted to put the right things at the right place. So here we worked with somebody called Georges Prat. He was a geobiologist, and this man really explained us and told us how to create harmony in this building and the right proportion, So he told us, for example, as an example, in a winery, you must never find any angle, He told us your worst wine will be the one that will be close to the angle of the winery. So this is why in this winery, there's no angle at all. It's all about curve and round shape, I would say.
Great. So I had a very interesting question before today, Grégory, saying obviously we're a few weeks away from the harvest. The grapes are in wonderful condition. You have this terrific winery ready to receive the grapes. What are you both, Laure, maybe first, what are you looking forward to most during the harvest and the winemaking? What's exciting?
You mean every year or for this?
Yeah, every year or this year particularly. Yeah, what's exciting?
Well, every year what is exciting it's a new challenge every year, and we never get bored because each vintage is very, very different in Burgundy, and I really like the creation, like you have to make something from another thing, and you get surprised every year. So this is for me it's always interesting. For this particular year, I think it would be interesting because we'll have quantity, I think, for 2020. So it's quite good. It's also interesting because we get some new contracts this year. finger crossed, but we are supposed to get some Charme Chambertin, for example. A new contract of Charme Chambertin. We'll get, what's the other one?
Corton, Renard,
Corton Renard, another one, because we already got one, but we'll do a little bit more. So some new gem to add to the portfolio. So it's always nice to find new contract.
Great. And Gregory, what would you be worried most about pre-harvest? What's your biggest fear coming into a new harvest?
The biggest fear is a climatic problem, you know, like hailstorm, you know, it can destroy your crop in only 5 minutes, you know, just a big storm, hail, like 2014, we had a lot of hail the last few vintages, and it's really it's not something you can't control. This is what is terrible in our job. We cannot control that. In 2 minutes, you can lose 8 months of work. So this is really the biggest fear.
And the virus, maybe.
Great. So once the fruit is safely in the winery, your worries are over.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, the job is done, really.
Terrific. All right, so why don't we start looking at some of the wines that we've selected today for our virtual tasting. So very exciting. We've asked you to do an alternative presentation of the wine. So Grégory, I think you're going to kick us off and talk to us about the Bourgogne Haute Côte de Nuit Blanc.
Yes.
Well, they already get the,
okay, yeah.
I get the picture. So.
So Haute Côte de Nuit is interesting because this is a vineyard that is, so it's pure Chardonnay. Huh? I hope we do not teach anything to the people who look at us today, watch us today, but pure Chardonnay. And Haute Côte is higher in altitude compared to the where we are right now. We are just above the vineyard of Beau now. So Haute Côte is, I would say, is really in front of me, behind the mountains. So that means you have a more fresh expression, you know, instead of being at 220 meters, we are maybe something like 400 meters in terms of altitude. So that means the wines have more freshness, more minerality, more purity, and but it needs to be ripe. Sometimes in the past, you know, 20 years ago, it was a place where ripeness was not easy to reach. But now with the climate change, I would say it's a good point now. Wines from this appellation, Haute Côte de Nuit, can really, it's maybe an interesting appellation for the future. I would say you have more and more interesting wine with more complexity, more ripeness here.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the wine is made, how it's aged?
So this is which vintage is that? Yeah,
18.
2018. This wine has spent 20 months in oak. Yeah, so it's very, very long. At Jean-Claude Boisset, we believe we do a long aging process under oak because you've heard about premature oxidation in Burgundy, and sometimes it's because the winemakers bottle the wine too early. We believe at Jean-Claude Boisset that the longest will be the life of the wine in the barrel. The longest will be the life of the wine in the bottle. So that's very important to do a long aging process in the cellar. But as you can imagine, it costs a lot of money because you need to keep 2 vintages in the cellar with twice more barrels. So there's a lot of economic stuff behind that. So at Jean-Claude Boisset, we don't make any compromise in terms of winemaking here. So, and we use bigger barrels. You know, in Burgundy, we use traditionally 228 liters, and here we use 450. The idea is to have less oak impact, more purity, and very definitely no vanilla, no coffee cake aroma. So really, the oak has to be as neutral as possible here. So really, if you feel oak, that means we are bad winemakers.
Now, we've been speaking to other winemakers over the last week who've told us that 2018, the whites are quite opulent.
Yes.
Are we getting more of that typical Burgundy minerality and acidity from these Haute Côte wine, particularly in 2018?
Yeah, 18 is a vintage where the crop is good. So that means we had good yields. So we have preserved the acidity. So, but in another way, the Chardonnay were extremely ripe, much more ripe than 17 or 14, to give you an example. So that means the wines, we don't know, honestly, sometimes during the last 20 years, the potential of the wine is never easy to trust, you know, but we think that these wines are already accessible. They are definitely more accessible than 17 or 16. So it's not easy to explain and logical, but you have certainly to drink 18 before 17 or 16 for sure.
How's it tasting today, Laure?
It's tasting good, yeah. Well, I like the freshness of this wine every year. I think it's very interesting. And it changed, the profile is different from the Bourgogne Chardonnay, for example. It got this special acidity on the back, which is quite interesting. Mm.
Well, what is interesting is the price on this wine is for people looking in, because as we know, white Burgundy can get very expensive very quickly, especially on the very prestigious appellations. But this Bourgogne Côte de Nuit is only $30. And I think, as Gregory said, with the improvement that you're getting from vineyards like Haute Côte, they provide a really great, authentic white Burgundy experience, but not authentic white Burgundy prices.
You see, the Montgolfière.
Did you order that for us specially?
Yes. And it's very noisy. Huh?
That's
wonderful. Laure, how about you tell us about Martini Blanc, because that's a very interesting story.
Yes, of course. So Martini Blanc, we have started this contract in 2014, if I recall well. So we have a great contract here. It's from plot named Le Clos, which is quite famous to do very good Chardonnay. Marsanne is more famous for the red wine, especially because it's 90% of the appellation is planted in Pinot Noir, and there is around 10% planted in Chardonnay. So it's quite rare. And every year this one get a great complexity with a lot of spiciness, I think. And I think if you taste it blind, it would be very interesting to compare it with some Côte de Beaune wine.
Well, that was going to be my next question, Laure. Is obviously Côte de Nuit is not known for producing a lot of white wine. In a blind tasting, is it easy to pick a white wine from the Côte de Nuit against a Côte de Beaune? Or if it was a Côte de Beaune, what would it be similar to for you? What appellation might it be similar to?
With the Marsanne specifically?
Yeah.
Something with maybe quite, well, some body, you know, because, well, some, maybe something bold. So I guess something with a clay soil from the Côte de Beaune. Maybe, I don't know, what would you say? Maybe Centenay Blanc, maybe?
Centenay would be a good alternative, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I would pick this one.
And any big differences in the winemaking between this and the Haute Côte?
No.
Not really, no. Maybe we did a longer aging for this one.
No, similar, really similar. This is not the winemaker that makes the difference, only the terroir. You know, that's very, very important.
Now, I know you were talking about being a lazy winemaker and minimalist in terms of intervention. You don't do a lot of bâtonnage at Jean-Claude Boisset on the white wines.
No, we don't do any. In fact, in 2007, we have decided to stop to do any. It's a classical method, you know, to do bâtonnage. We stirring the lees, you know, it provides more fatness, more sweetness. But at Jean-Claude Boisset, we want to make some wines with energy. When you do that, for me, it means you want to add an artificial fatness. So that means something bad in the vineyard has been made. So this is why in 2007 we have decided to stop, and the wine has much more purity in that. But it doesn't forgive. You need, one more time, you need to have top grapes before that.
Well, I have to say, Grégory, you know, we've been drinking your wines for quite a while, and each one is different and very terroir specific. But I think in the white wines, the one thing they do have in common is this beautiful purity of fruit and minerality and acidity. And so obviously you're doing the right thing. To my eyes, for who's a bluff old Burgundy traditionalist and likes acidity and likes minerality. So Congratulations on that. Shall we take a look at the red wines? Laure, you're going to carry on and tell us, this is a fairly new contract, right? Volnay-Fontenot?
Brand new, yes, Volnay-Fontenot that will carry for 2019 and 2022, which is a good news. Yeah, it's been a while that we didn't get a Volnay. So, and I remember I was very pleased to see this one because my first crush at Jean-Claude Boisset was a Volnay, actually, Volnay Premier Cru 2008. You used to do some Volnay Premier Cru in the past. I don't remember the name. Carrel sous la Chapelle, something like that. Yep. Yes, Carrel sous la Chapelle. You see. So this is. We were very happy to get this one. It was actually the first grapes that we picked in 2018, in August, end of August. So that was the first grapes to see the new winery.
Yeah.
So it got full energies. This one.
Now, if we can just see the map, please, Lisa.
Yeah, because
the Fontenay parcel has a very interesting story. Can you tell us the story of Fontenay?
Yes, so Fontenay is tricky because it's not on the city, yes, on the village of Volnay. It's on the village of Meursault. And if you have planted Pinot Noir, it would be Volnay Premier Cru Fontenay. And if you have planted Chardonnay, it would be Meursault Premier Cru Fontenay. So you think Burgundy is already difficult? We can prove you that it can be more difficult.
so just to confirm, you're telling us that on the single plot, if you plant it with one grape, it's a Meursault, and if you plant it with the other grape, it's a Volnay.
Yes, yes, super easy.
Does that mean the white wine is planted on red soil, or the red wines are planted on white soil?
You mean the color of the soil?
Yeah, is Fontenay better for red or better for white?
I know there is a lot of clay in Fontenay, red clay. So maybe it's make Meursault quite fat. I never tasted
no,
Meursault
honestly,
Fontenay.
I think it's better for reds, definitely.
Yeah.
Fontenay is for me one of the top 3 best Premier Cru from Volnay, with les Cairel, les Taillepied, Fontenay, and Clos des Chênes, top 4, let's say, top 4 best Premier Cru from Volnay, for sure.
Can you quickly walk us through how you made the wine, Laure?
Yeah. So we haven't had any sulfites until the malolactic fermentation for this one. So we hadn't seen a drop of sulfur during the maceration. We use only didn't had any yeast too during the maceration, and we use 50% of whole cluster in the oak vats. So doing distem grapes, whole cluster, distem grapes, whole cluster, like a cake, in the vats. We did around 20 days of maceration with a little bit of Persic cap down to extract color and tannins. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. And after that, we did an aging of 16 months with 35% of new oak.
And how is it tasting today? What can we expect from this 2018 volume?
It's still a baby, has all the wines that we are tasting today. So the first nose will be very powerful with the dried roseate violet aromas, which is very specific of the whole cluster. When you use that, it releases a lot of flowers aromas, but it's quite, Volnay is quite, I don't really like to use this word, but I don't know which one to use. It's quite feminine, quite elegant. Yes, let's say that. Quite elegant and quite smooth, not that much of, and a nice acidity because it was the first one that we picked. So it got a nice freshness on the back.
Yeah, it was only 12.5, which is for 18 quite a very low alcohol. So very interesting wine.
Yeah, quite refined. Mm.
In general, Gregory, your wines are often on the lower side of alcohol, right?
Yeah, it depends. Usually, yeah, in the past, there was, 10 years ago, we were looking for more ripeness, but at the end of the day, high alcohol makes some wines you don't drink, We want to make some wines that you drink, not some wines that you spit. That's a big difference. So, but usually most of our wines are 12.5.
How long do you think we can keep these 2018s, Laure?
More than 10 years for sure. Yes, you get everything for the red to that you can forget that in your cellar. No problem. I know you can't, but you can try.
We will be dead. It will be certainly still fantastic for sure.
Good to know.
So drink it before that.
Oh yes, I'll try to drink it before I'm dead. So, Grégory, moving on to the final wine, you are actually standing in the vineyard of where this last wine is made. Can you tell us a little bit about the vines, where you are?
So here we are in a Beaune, Premier Cru Les Grèves. So you can have a look to the right vineyard. I don't know if you can see it here.
Ouais, mais on va marcher, non?
Yeah. Ouais, let's walk.
Okay, all right.
It's right here. It's an old vine, 60 years old. And Les Grèves is for me really one of the nicest, maybe the best Premier Cru from Beaune with Le Clos des Mouches. So really, this is the only wine that can age for 20 years for sure, Les Grèves. And the biggest, 42 hectares total here. And we make 3,000 bottles total production of Les Grèves. I love Beaune because Beaune is known as a city, but it's not known as a wine. And I think Les Grèves demonstrate that it can be a fantastic wine.
Alors attends. Sorry, we are a winemaker, not wine director. Doing our best right now.
Yeah.
Hop, c'est bon? Tu vois les vignes là comme ça?
Voilà, this is the vineyard here, right there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it is organically farmed, and we don't use any herbicides here. And there's a nice slope, 7-8%, and it's 1 hectare. It's not very small. In fact, it's a good size for Burgundy here, but the yields are extremely low here.
Can we get a close up of a nice big bunch of Pinot Gris?
Yes.
Greg, do you think?
Yes. I'm. Do you see it here?
Ah, fantastic.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
So almost finished ripening.
It depends. Here you can see it's red or green. Yeah, really depends.
So it needs probably 1 more month, but which is unbelievable, to see this level of ripeness. We are the 23rd of July. I think we have never seen that in Burgundy. Even in 2003, we were a little bit late compared to what we live now. So this is the most earliest vintage we have ever seen in Burgundy, 2020.
Now, stylistically, Grégory, Beaune Premier Cru is a very big production area. I think 65% of the reds in Beaune Premier Cru, and lots of different styles. You call your Beaune Grève the beast of the cellars. Can you tell us specifically what makes this vineyard so good for making such great wines?
We call this wine the beast because Beaune is known, like most of the Premier Cru from Beaune make some fruity wines with low acidity, with high pH. Here, this is exactly the opposite. You have beautiful ripeness, but it combines acidity and power. So it has a strong masculine character. This is why it's completely unusual to have such a big character like that. It could be blind. I think I would be trapped like Gevrey-Chambertin for sure. It could be Gevrey-Chambertin for sure. Premier Cru blind, and you have 90% of chance to be trapped with this wine. So we call him the beast because you never expect a beast like that coming from Beaune. Yeah.
Can you quickly explain what the word grève means, Greg?
Les grèves. So it's funny because there are two meanings. In French it means on strike. It's a religion in French to be on strike. We love that. If we don't do any strike, we are not French. No, and the second meaning is a grève it's a kind of stone. It's a kind of specific stone in Burgundy. So there is maybe a little bit more than any other area of this specific stone called Les Grèves here.
Now, because you're getting such great quality of fruits and such dense, ripe fruit, does that change the way you have to make the wines a little bit?
What do you mean?
Bah, si tu fais,
Oui.
si tu t'extrais tout autant, non?
Yeah, here this is the typical vineyard where you must do as less as possible in terms of extraction for the vinification process. Here we do just little pump overs, but we plunge the cap only one time. That's really ridiculous, you know. If you do more than one time, you extract tannins from the beast. So really, it's really easy to extract here. So you have to do really, it's like a gentle and long infusion. So you must be as lazy as possible here.
And the oak regime pretty much the same as the other wines too?
Yeah, well, we do a long, like the whites, we try to do as close to 2 winters in the cellar, and we use 1/3 new oak here. But one more, the new barrels we are using are very neutral here. The coopers that we are working with, I always ask to have very neutral coopers, no vanilla, one more time, no coffee cake. So even if you come in the cellar and you try with a pipette, you know, a new barrel, if you smell new oak, that means the cooper is not good enough to work with us.
So could you have a little taste for us and tell us how the 2018 is tasting today, please?
Yeah, let's go back to the, yes.
Ah, sorry.
Yes. let's go back to the glasses. And that's funny because next to our Bonne Grève, there's a Bonne Grève white. There's a little bit of Chardonnay here. It's funny.
You can see it, I don't know.
I did not know that you had Bonne Grève white. Wow.
No, it's not coming from us. This is the neighbor.
No, I mean, in general, I didn't know there was a Bonne Grève white.
I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, it's a Chardonnay here, yeah.
Wow.
Yes, just next to us, yes.
So it can make, it's in my opinion, more a red wine terroir, but it can make interesting and funny white wine, definitely. Let's go back to the, give us 5 seconds.
Beautiful images of the Beaune Vineyard. Thank you.
Yes, well, you're welcome. I'm trying to do my best, actually.
I'm feeling seasick.
Yes, sorry. Sorry for that.
Up. And the bone here, yes. Up. Yeah. So it's always a wine on the nose. It's very, because here we use whole cluster. So it's mostly driven by rose, very typical rose petals here on the nose. Strong character, very refined Pinot nose. But what is funny here is on the mouth, this is a very masculine wine with a lot of tannins, very deeply concentrated wine. So it's really a wine that is unusual because you never expect that much character for Beaune here. Definitely a wine you can keep 20 years in the cellar before drinking it for sure.
Fantastic. So let me just recap the pricing for the wines we've tasted. So the Martini Blanc, tremendous value for white Burgundy at around $37, $40 a bottle. The Volnay Premier Cru Centenot at 110, and the Bonne Grève, the beast of the cellar, a snip at 169 for what is an absolutely outstanding example of Bonne Premier Cru. So very good. Couple of questions that we've had, probably for both of you. I'll start with Laure. What
Yes.
would be your favorite Jean-Claude Boisset appellation?
It's a tough one. You have to choose between your children, sorry. I would say maybe it's really tough to pick. I would take a white. One of my favorite is actually a Bonne Premier Cru Les Vignes Franches. I don't remember to get it in the US.
Gregory, do you have a
For the reds, I'm a big fan of Chambol-Musigny. Chambol-Musigny is for me really the ultimate place where you make the most refined Pinots in Burgundy. Not the most well-known, you know, Gevrey-Chambertin is more well-known, much bigger. Chambol is a smaller, but really the top wine amateurs of Burgundy go to Chambol, definitely. I'm a big fan.
For those people watching, we do have in our 2018 pre-sale a selection of two wines, the Chambol-Musigny Village and Chambol Premier Cru Les Charmes from Grégory, waiting for you as well. Well, we've come to the end of our allotted time, and it was such a treat to be in the vineyards with you. I believe that you're both on vacation from tomorrow, hoping that the harvest doesn't come too early.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely. We leave the job tomorrow with a little bit of fear.
But we are ready.
We are
Anyway,
ready. We are
yes.
ready. But you know, sometimes nature goes quickly than we expect, quicker than we expect. So we have to be careful about that this year. We're going to harvest in August, and it's unusual for Burgundy.
Well, we wish you all the very best of luck. Enjoy a well-deserved break, the calm before the storm, as we say in England. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that 2020 is going to bring some more stellar wines from Jean-Claude Boisset. Laure and Grégory, thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you very
Merci.
much.
Merci
This
beaucoup.
evening. Wonderful
Thank you.
images. To everybody watching, that's all for us for this week. We'll be back next week with some tasting from the Beaujolais. So in the meantime, I would like to wish you all the very best for the coming weekend. Stay well, stay safe, stay healthy, and join us again next week. So merci and au revoir.
Au revoir. Bye
Au
bye.
revoir. Bye.